What is going on, everybody? My name is Tom Kelly, and this is Clean Cut Audio. On this channel, my goal is to help you produce amazing sounding podcasts on any budget. And this video is going to be the testament to how well you can do on any budget. I'm going to go through 5 different setups here, ranging from $7,000 to $200 input signal chains, to hear how good of quality we can get at pretty much any price point. All right, let's do it. I recently did a video where we explored my input signal chain, and I already could hear people complaining that it's impractical to expect any podcaster, most podcasters, to have that kind of setup. Fair point. I get it. I'm not trying to be any podcaster. I'm an audio engineer. I appreciate my gear. I love my input signal chain. I spent the money on it, and no regrets at all. However, I know most people are trying to spend as little as possible. And what I'm hoping to show you is that if you use the gear properly, you can get a very good signal for not much money. The first thing I need to mention before we listen to these examples is that I am recording in a sound-treated room. This space is pretty much perfect when it comes to a recording situation as well as a mixing situation. But what we're doing here is we are recording. There is no influence from the room itself. There's no reverberations. It is not shaping the tone of my voice. What you are hearing is pure signal from my mouth into the microphone, through the preamps, converters, into Pro Tools, what have you. But today, what I'm looking to explore is my normal signal chain, the SM7B into an Apogee Ensemble, through a Millennia STT1 channel strip, and then I'm taking the SM7B through an SSL2, through a Scarlett 2i2, and then we're going to explore this guy's cheaper younger brother, the SM58, through the SSL2 and the Scarlett 2i2. So I've got some examples here in Pro Tools, and I just want to listen to them one by one and just kind of hear what we hear. Hello, I am recording on a Shure SM7B into an Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt interface. That is then being sent to a Millennia STT1 channel strip for EQ and compression, and then back into the Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt for conversion before being sent to Pro Tools. This signal chain is worth about $7,000. Hello, I am recording on a Shure SM7B into an SSL2 interface. The gain is set to about 4 o'clock, and there is no post-processing done on this recording. I have been recording with the legacy 4K switch off, but I will now engage it, and it is a little crisper, a little clearer, and in my opinion, a little bit better. This setup is worth about $700. Alrighty, and I'm recording into a Shure SM58 dynamic microphone with a big ol' foam pop filter up front, and that is going into an SSL2 interface with the gain set to about 3 o'clock. I have been recording with the legacy 4K off, but I will now engage it, and you are now hearing that legacy 4K switch on. This setup is worth about $300. Alrighty, I am recording on a Shure SM58 into a Scarlett 2i2 interface. The gain is set to about 4 o'clock, and I do have a big foam pop filter in front of the Shure SM58. This setup is worth about $200. And you know what? Just for fun, I really wanted to compare the SSL2 to the Scarlett 2i2 with the Shure SM7B. So this is the Shure SM7B, no cloud lifter, into the Scarlett 2i2. The gain is maxed out, and listen to that noise. We can back it off a little bit and kind of reduce the signal, but all that noise is just going to come back later on anyway. This signal chain is worth too much for the sound you're getting at about $500. All right, I hope that exercise was illuminating. I want to take a listen to some of these back to back to get a quicker comparison. So I'm going to flick through, give some information on the screen as to what's going on, and then I want to discuss how we can try to make all of these actually sound very similar. Can we make the $200 recording sound just like the $7,000 recording? I think with a little bit of help, a little bit of knowledge, and a little bit of skill, and maybe a couple plugins, I think we can. So let's take a listen. I'm just going to flick through and again, let you know what I'm trying to see here. SM7B into an SSL2 interface. The gain is set to about 4 SM7B, no cloud lifter, into the Scarlett 2i2. The gain is maxed out in 4K switch off, but I will now engage it, and it is a little bit and kind of reduce the signal, but all that SM58 dynamic microphone with a big old foam pop filter up front, and they do have a big foam pop filter in front of the I have been recording with the legacy 4K switch noise. We can back it off a little bit and kind of reduce this on a Shure SM7. Okay, mostly what I was interested in is the difference between the Scarlett 2i2 and the SSL2. I think because of the way I'm using this microphone, when I'm recording, as I've said before, I am directly on this thing. I'm talking right into it. My lips are touching the pop filter. Again, the important thing to know, a lot of people are like, that's too close. You need to be 3 inches away from the microphone. Check this out. When you take the pop filter off, the diaphragm of the microphone is right here, right? So we've got 3 finger lengths from the diaphragm, and then this pop filter adds about like half an inch. So when we put all that on there, I'm between 3 and 4 finger lengths away, which is the correct distance to be from a microphone. Now, the Scarlett 2i2 performed better in this than I anticipated because of my distance to the microphone. I see a lot of people using the Shure SM7B like this. And when you double your distance from the microphone, the amount of sound pressure that the microphone receives is half, and the intensity of the amplitude is actually quartered. So when we get farther and farther away from this microphone, we have to turn up the gain, which increases more preamp noise, and or we have to crank it more in post, which again brings up more noise. If you'd like to learn more about this concept, you can Google the inverse square law to learn so much more than you ever thought was possible to know about this principle. So when it comes to the SM7B, I am right on this thing. And not only does it make your preamps do less work, which when they're very cheap preamps, as the Scarlett 2i2 has, when they're cheap, they're usually noisy. So if we get closer, you can lower the gain, which lowers the noise floor. But the other really amazing thing that it does when you get closer to the microphone is in relation, the sound of your room is significantly less because the microphone is getting more of your voice, which means it's drowning out anything that's not your voice that's a greater distance from the microphone, which is going to be reflective walls or your dishwasher running or your dog barking. If you're not in a sound-treated room like I am, you can just get closer to the microphone if it's a dynamic microphone. Get right on top of that thing, and it'll probably be okay. And it kind of reduces the need for $4,000 worth of sound treatment materials. You can save so much money by just getting closer to that thing. That is something important to note as well. I'm in the sound treated room, so all of these signals are going to be getting a good foundation of being in a sound treated space. I would love to redo this test in like my living room or my bedroom, which sadly does not have sound treatment in it. My wife wouldn't allow that, but man, there is some flutter echo in there that I'd really love to control if I could. But what I hope you take away from this is that if you use the thing properly, you can get a pretty good sound. What's more important than the microphone and the preamp and all that stuff is how you mix it. I think we can do a pretty good job in making this $200 signal sound a lot like the $7,000 signal. I don't think it'll ever be perfect, but I see a lot of these like microphone gear videos, and I don't think there's a lot of value to them because you can do a lot of work with an equalizer, and the raw signal obviously does matter. Like, don't get me wrong. I love a good microphone. I love a good Elam 251. If I had the money for that, I would buy it because of the raw characteristics of that microphone. However, we can do a lot of work in post. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of flick back and forth between raw and mixed versions. And then I want to compare mixed versions to see if just a little bit of hooking up in post can make these sound even better. Alrighty, I am recording on a Shure SM58 into a Scarlett 2i2 interface. Over the course of the next few minutes, I am equalizing all of these signals to try to get them as close to each other as possible. While each microphone and each preamp has its own unique characteristics, we can kind of push them a little bit more together using equalization. We can't do everything in order to get them completely identical, but we can do a lot. So I'm going to speed through this a little bit. You can kind of see the moves I'm making, and we're definitely going to hear it later, so don't worry about missing anything. However, if you would like to learn how to better equalize your podcast, your voiceover, your audio for film, what have you, I have 2 incredibly thorough courses on my website at cleancutaudio.com/courses. The Beginner's Guide to Equalization for Podcast, Voiceover, and Film, and the Advanced Guide. Between these 2 courses, there are over 7 hours of content that cover everything from frequency perception, how our room and our environment impacts the sound of our recording and impacts how we mix audio, everything about equalizers, how to listen, how to hear, and how to make moves to make your voice sound better through equalization. If you want to check out the course, you can follow the link in the description and use the coupon code YouTube for 20% off the course. You can also pay over time to make this course even more affordable. And if you don't care at all, no worries. I'm just glad you're here watching this video. Now back to the EQ demo. So I just spent about 6 minutes trying to mix all of these signals to be as close to each other as possible, or rather as close as I can get them in 5 or 6 minutes. I didn't want to spend all day on this. So you'll see a lot of plugins here, but the only thing I changed between every single one of these channels was the equalization. So this is my $7,000 EQ. This is my $700 EQ. This is my $300 EQ. You might notice a trend here. As we go cheaper and cheaper, we need to do more and more equalization. Not necessarily a bad thing, but something to notice. And also those who don't want to spend a ton of money on their signal chain, this might be a stereotype, but maybe they're not that great at equalization. They don't really know a lot about it. So it's important to know that the cheaper you go on equipment, the better you need to be at managing it, which doesn't usually go hand in hand. Our $200 one looks pretty similar. I think the Scarlett, I don't know, there's something missing there. I don't know, it was a little weird. Anyway, and then the Scarlett with the $500 one versus the $7,000. So this is the SM7B between the Scarlett 2i2 and the Apogee Ensemble. So I don't know, not too different. It was missing a lot of air on the Scarlett, I noticed. So I was putting a lot of that back in, and a little fuller, a little more rounded on the Apogee Ensemble and Millennia STT1. So I want to go quickly before and after on each of these signals, only bypassing the equalization and soothe to hear what I'm doing with EQ, and then I want to compare them to each other. Hello, I am recording on a Shure SM7B into an Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt interface that is then being sent to a Millennia STT1 channel strip. Hello, I am recording on a Shure SM7B into an SSL2 interface. The gain is set to about 4 o'clock and there is no post-processing. Alrighty, and I'm recording into a Shure SM58 dynamic microphone with a big ol' foam pop filter up front, and that is going into an SSL2. Alrighty, I am recording on a Shure SM58 into a Scarlett 2i2 interface. The gain is set to about 4 o'clock, and I do have a big foam pop filter in front of the Shure SM58. And you know what? Just for fun, I really wanted to compare the SSL2 to the Scarlett 2i2 with the Shure SM7B. So this is the Shure SM7B, no cloud lifter. Hello, I am recording on a Shure SM7, the SSL2 to the Scarlett 2i2 with the Shure S that is then being sent to a Millennia STT. I am recording on a Shure SM7B into an SE Ensemble Thunderbolt interface. That is then about 4 o'clock, and there is no post into an SSL2 interface with the gain set to about 3G Ensemble Thunderbolt for conversion. I am recording on a Shure SM58 into Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt interface. That gain is set to about 4 o'clock, and I do have a bit of processing done on this recording. A Shure SM58 dynamic microphone with a big old. The gain is set to about 4 o'clock, and I do no cloud lifter into the Scarlett 2i2. The gain is back into the Apogee Ensemble Thunderbolt for conversion. Okay, so we have 5 different signals there with 5 wildly different price tags. What I want people to know is that great audio does not need to be difficult, and it does not need to come at a high price. And for what it's worth, my $7,000 input chain, I didn't pay $7,000 for it. You know I buy everything used. This Apogee Ensemble I bought used for $1,400. The Millennia STT1 I bought used for $2,300. The microphone I think I got used for $360. So I paid about half price for all this stuff. And this $300 SM58 to SSL2, I bet you can get a good SM58 for $40 rather than the $100 price tag. I'm sure you can get an SSL2 for $150 rather than $190 or $210 or whatever it is. You can turn this great $300 signal chain into a great $200 signal chain. I don't think you need a cloud lifter if you're getting close to the mic. If you have an SSL2, you can get amazing sound for $200 if you buy this stuff used. If you put that extra money you saved into some sound treatment, into some acoustic panels, anything but that 1-inch wedge foam, literally anything but that, I think you can get an amazing sound. And if you have any questions on how to either record a better podcast or mix a better podcast, definitely feel free to leave a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this, please feel free to subscribe if you think I earned it. Feel free to like the video and share it with a friend. Thank you all so much. I truly appreciate you, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye.